Right, so here's my solution to assignment 4 password cracker. Um, so I start with opening up the rocku.txt file. Make sure the file opened correctly, exit if it didn't, and then I start reading the file till the end. And then here I just have an extra check to make sure didn't I don't read the last line of the file twice or anything like that. So then I, retrieve the password from the file. I increment our line count here, which will be later used to calculate the total percentage of valid passwords. And then here we have our isValid function, where the magic happens, determines if a password is valid for the website I chose. So the website I chose was PetSmart.com. Pretty basic password requirements. Just requires that the password is 8 characters long, contains one letter, and then at least one uppercase letter, a number or a special character. So now we'll take a look at the isValid function here. First thing I check for is to make sure that the password is at least 8 characters long, and if not, then I return false right away. And then here we have our regex pattern. So this little R here, or big R, this big R here is a string literal, and it just allows me to put, something like a / character in the pattern without, having to put two, so one can be an escape character. This little up arrow here means to start search. It tells the pattern to start searching from the beginning of the string. And then here we have our positive look ahead. And first I look for a letter, uppercase or lowercase, because it didn't really specify what case the one letter had to be. So, excuse me, I just checked for both. And then we have another positive look ahead here. And then this is our non-capturing group, which is just here so that if one of these patterns are found, it's not the substring isn't taken because we don't really do anything with it in this function. So I check for any uppercase letters. This -D here checks for digits from 0 to 9. And then in here checks for all special characters that possibly could be there. And then this little period asterisk thing, I forget what the name of it is at this moment, but I know that it allows for any sequence of characters to be between any of these patterns in here. And then this $sign signifies the check to the end of the string, and then we've reached the end of our pattern. So then I check here. I use the regex match function. I pass in the password and the pattern, which will return true once these conditions are met. And then obviously if it is true, we return true because the password would be valid. And then if it's not, then we return false. And then we head back to the function here. Scroll too far. So then if the password is valid, then we just push it into our vector of valid passwords. So then we close the rocku.txt file, open our output file, which I wrote it in a separate file because originally I tried printing to the terminal, but I think there was around 5 million some passwords that were valid. So they all obviously weren't viewable in the terminal, so I just redirected them to this output file here, which we'll take a look at here in a second. And then I, check to make sure the output file was opened correctly. And then I calculate the percentage of total passwords that were valid by just taking the size of the vector and then dividing it by the number of lines in the rocku.txt file. And then we print out every password that was in the valid vector. And we calculate our percentage here and print it. So then let's take a look at our output file here. So here's the list of all valid passwords, which was a lot, but I'll include this in my submission if you care to take a look at it. Here at the bottom here, I actually thought was kind of interesting. These like non-printable characters in here that it, I mean, I'm not exactly sure, but they look binary encoded to me. So I actually tried to create an account and then use this password, and it did work. So I mean, these technically are valid passwords, even though I guess at a first glance they don't really look like it. So then after the program was done executing, it said that around 38.08% of the passwords were valid for PetSmart.com. And yep, that is my solution.